welcome into the TDN Fantasy podcast, a very special guest today. Friend of the pod. He's a Super Bowl champion, so that's kind of a big deal. I started with friend of the pod because that's really the most important thing. Then we went to Super Bowl champion. That's good friend, Tyrann Mathieu. Ty, thanks so much for joining the podcast. You're getting made fun of like me because neither one of us has anything in the background. So where are you chilling right now? Are you at home?
Yeah, I'm actually in Kansas City right now. So this is technically supposed to be my office area, but I have yet to get to it. So it's still under construction, but yeah.
Okay, show the people what you showed us earlier because I am going to show this video. So
just got some. Hey, I got my Pat P little fence thing over there. So I gotta put that up, man. I gotta get some time to put that up, man. So,
I was gonna say, he's got good stuff. He's got good stuff. So if you're listening
King
to the
James
podcast,
High School jersey, man, that was nice. I like that one.
I was gonna say he's got some good stuff. He's trying to keep up with Jake, who's trying to show us all up with all his background stuff that he's got going on. But Ty, talk about what it's like this offseason. Obviously, so different from any other offseason we've ever had before. And you started off 2020 so hot. You got LSU winning a national championship. You guys winning a Super Bowl. So you took all the good juju for 2020, and then the rest of us got stuck with what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good start to the year. Going down to New Orleans, seeing LSU pull it out. It hurted me to my heart because, my group, we were the only team to play in a national championship game in New Orleans and lose. So to see those young boys pull it off, they did me proud. But and then to follow up, obviously with the Super Bowl win, I thought that was great just for a moment. We felt like heroes, especially for Kansas City. Those people really came. They showed out for the parade. It was freezing out there too, so they were out there, in that weather. But I thought they played a big role as well, as far as, how we were able to come back from certain deficits, especially at home. They really gave us some home field advantage. But felt like after that, obviously things got a lot more serious, with the COVID-19 and different things like that, which I thought I tried my best to do my best as far as with my foundation. And so I'm just hoping everybody continues to, be well and to stay well, really.
Yeah, I want to make sure everybody checks out the foundation. So it's Tyrann Mathieu Foundation. He's been doing a ton of great work. I know Jamie wants to ask you about your bike and vote part of your foundation and the event you got coming up. So we'll get to that. But have you acquired, what have you been doing this off season? I know you're a big yoga guy, right? You do a lot of yoga in the off season. You do a lot of self-reflection. Have you done anything else? Have you acquired any other skills, or have you just been really becoming a yogi this off season?
I've just really been in that, in that mode, really. Especially with the quarantine, I felt like, that gave me some time to continue to. I work on myself every day. So I just feel like that gave me some more time to kind of continue to work on things, outside of football, outside of family, so I do a lot of yoga. I feel like that naturally, keeps me, in a good mind frame, in a good mind state. And then it's beneficial as well, to what I do for a living, and just trying to be where my feet are. And, not rush anything, not feel anxious for anything. So, but I haven't really picked up. I got an 8-month-old daughter. So, I've been on daddy duties and, so it's been fun though. I feel like with her, it's a lot different than when it was with my boys, like with her, I'm enjoying it, right? Like I just love the process. Whereas with my boys, I just wanted them to kind of grow up quick,
So that's my question, man. My first question was going to be, how has being a dad changed you? But we can see it. We see the smile on your face. But tell us what that's been like.
I mean, it's just giving me, great, really hope, feel like I've always needed that. And I think just, having my children, they give me that, each and every day. They make me want to be a better person. They make me not think about myself, I'm always kind of thinking about them and thinking about my responsibilities and, just trying to be the right person for them. I felt like I had my kids right around the same time I wanted to become, who I am now, and to kind of see it continue to develop. I'm grateful. I'm extremely happy for what they've done for me. They give me a great perspective about, where I want to go and where I want to continue to go.
So my follow-up to that is, because this is going to be hard for me to say now that you're a veteran in the league, you've been around for a while, not saying we're getting towards the twilight, but does having the kids, having the success you've had, the Pro Bowls, now the Super Bowl, does those two things combine to the legacy that you want? Do the kids, are the kids a part of that? I know you're much, much bigger than what happens between the white lines, right?
Right. I think 100%, man. I think, having those certain accomplishments while also being the kind of father I am, I think that's everything. Because if I was, not getting in trouble anymore, and I was, making X amount of dollars and making Pro Bowls, but I wasn't being the kind of person I truly want to be, I think I'd be, a lot of players are like in that moment right now where they just don't know what's real or not. And I'm grateful that I have that perspective about, what's really real and what's not necessary.
I want you to talk about being a girl dad though, because you started to talk about how different it is, right? Raising a daughter, and she's beautiful. And I see the pictures you post, and it's this different kind of electric smile that you have right now while I'm just asking you the question, because obviously you love the boys, but you're already telling me, you're like, listen, Ty Jr. is going to be the next Aaron Donald. Noah's going to be his agent. Like, I'm already dialed in for football. What's it like for baby girl? Because it's a different mentality for sure.
Yeah, you know what? I truly, I just obviously, I think having her, I think about, the kind of businesses I have and the kind of things I want to own, right? And, the kind of things I want to be able to pass down to her. So, and I hope is that, I hope I'm able to really set a great foundation for her where she doesn't have to work for anybody, but herself. And you know what I mean? So I'm hoping I can really do that for her, because right now I feel like a sucker. It's like, if she was old enough, I'd give her all my money, I mean, right now she like got me wrapped around her fingers. It's like she can't cry. I'm at that phase where I'm trying to let her sleep in her room, and it's like, yo, I got the speaker, the monitor. It's like it's up. The volume is up because I gotta hear her if anything goes wrong. So I'm really hoping that I can really set a great foundation for not necessarily anything football related that she can fall back on. I know it's a great chance that my children are able to fall back on my football legacy. And I'm hoping for her, I'm able to really set something that she can love. Maybe it's my foundation. Maybe she wants to spearhead that, and I'm hoping. But her mom was like a cheerleader. So, it's like her mom wants her to be a dancer and and I'm going to figure this out. We'll get her something she can own.
Yeah, tell Sid you're raising a business icon, not a cheerleader.
Yeah.
It feels almost trivial to transition to football now, but Paige and Jake have tasked me with that goal here. So, Tyrann, I wanted to ask you, we have a ton of Arizona listeners here because of, Paige, Jake. I'm sure you're familiar with Jake's dad for whatever reason. So we have a lot of Arizona listeners here that be doing the show. And I think one of the big questions they have is, how has your game changed and evolved since your time in Arizona, now that you've been with a couple different teams and are now a Super Bowl champion?
I mean, I think for real, to be honest, I think I've just grown up a little bit, I think when I was coming into the league, I was really in this bubble, so to say, and I was around some good dudes, Bruce Arians, Larry Fitzgerald, Pat P. And I felt like I was in this bubble in the sense that I didn't have to worry about anything like real life, And I felt like when I had my injuries, I couldn't function. Like it did something to my spirit. I wasn't the same player, like even practicing, and I'm sure that played a big part, in why me and Arizona divorced. It's because, I wasn't the same dude, like my walk was different. And I think I've just grown to a point now to where I'm able to kind of handle, it all, and I'm not able to let it really affect, what I do for a living. Whereas a lot of times, having injuries or because for a while I was trying to just overcome the stigma of me being a guy that couldn't stop smoking. And so I felt like I did that. And then as I was turning that corner, it's like I've never been injured before. Like football has always been that's been like my safe place. That's where I go to be great.
Yeah.
When everything else in the world was bad, I just go football, I'd be great. And like I felt like the injuries didn't allow me to be that. And I couldn't control it. I couldn't handle it. Even though I wasn't like messing up, I was walking different. I was talking different. And I'm just glad I was able to kind of get through that. But I think, in all, I'm able to handle all those things. That's why I feel like I'm able to kind of get back to who I was, as a player.
And with that experience, do you kind of look to be a mentor now for younger guys that maybe are going through that scenario? They haven't experienced this before, and you can say, here's the journey, here's the path that I took, and here's how I came out on the other side. As like you said, you weren't messing up, but just not feeling like yourself, not knowing this is not what I'm fully capable of being. Do you take on that role now?
Yeah, I think that was a big part of me coming to Kansas City, really. For a lot of my time in Arizona, I was the youngest guy in the room, so I was in the room with Pat P, Jake P, Jeremiah Bell. And then I went to Houston and, I was in the room with Jonathan Joseph and Kareem Jackson. And so I still wasn't the big guy in the room. I felt like Kansas City offered me the opportunity to really like be who I thought I could be, as far as a leader, because I had learned from a lot of great dudes, and all of them led differently. But I felt like I was in a good enough space to where I could be, who I knew I was, as far as practicing, as far as the way I walk, talk, interact with my teammates. I just felt like I was coming back to that. So, that's really why I was able to. That's really why I took to Kansas City. That's really why I left Houston. I was close to home. Like Houston was perfect for me. I was playing. Deshaun Watson is a good quarterback too. So, but I just felt like Kansas City gave me an opportunity to really follow in the footsteps of some of the dudes that I really look up to.
Man, we could talk about so many things off of that last playing injured, what it does to your psyche, all that kind of stuff. How much can change in a generation, right? For your kids. It's amazing. I'm glad you brought that transition up because Paige and I were ecstatic. I just want to see you get paid. So when you went to Houston, I was like, my boy's got some cheddar.
Yeah.
Life is going to be okay. And then you went to Kansas City and did it again. But when you went to Kansas City, my first job was there. I know how amazing that organization is. Yeah. But bigger than that, how incredible Chiefs Kingdom is. Paige and I talk all the time on the show. If you're a fan of the NFL and you don't go to a game at Arrowhead and experience that, then you haven't really lived a giant part of the NFL because it's just different, right? Like I've been around a lot of fan bases.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience in Kansas City, Chiefs Kingdom. You talked about the Super Bowl parade and them showing up in the freezing cold. Man, 50 years and they win another one. Like I know how big that is, but tell us your experience. We were so happy to see you go there because I knew how much that fan base would love you and what you bring.
Yeah, and to be honest, I felt like they really carried us for a good part of that season last year. When we were kind of stuck in a slump. But it really reminds me of LSU. And I don't really like to compare like people to things, but that was the feel. Like for me personally, it made me feel really important. They made me feel special. They made me feel wanted. Like it's kind of like how Bruce Arians made me feel when I came in the league. You know what I mean? And they wonder why I played so well. And so I think just having like people like that around you, like it naturally, adds to, who you could become as a player. So, and, it's not much to do in Kansas City, so it's just football, family, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like the ideal place for a guy who wants to come in, play football, and not really worry about, much else.
No, I couldn't. I obviously went to school in Lincoln, spent a lot of time in Kansas City. I know the KC market very well. And at the end of this podcast, I will be asking you about barbecue. So you better prepare yourself. You better prepare yourself for that question. But I want to go back to something you said because it really stuck with me. And it was all the different leaders that you've been able to learn from, right? And you mentioned the guys, whether it's Bruce Arians or Pat P or Larry Fitzgerald, icons, superstars, future Hall of Famers, great people and great men. What kind of leader are you now, though? Because you said you learned from all of them differently, and you took away something different from all of them. What did you take and make your own in Kansas City? Because I can see it visibly, but I want to hear what you think from inside your own head.
Well, I think, I've had so many great people, man. Like, I'm going to leave some people out, but, for example, I don't think I have a foundation right now if it wasn't for like guys like Larry Fitzgerald showing me that I'm able to do both, right? Like, I'm able to juggle both. I'm able to be an impact in both, and obviously having dudes like Pat P, showed me, how to be a professional, you know what I mean? Like how to, put things in perspective, like how to, balance work, balance, home life, how to balance relationships with your wife versus the relationship with your mother. And I think, I've been taught, really well, and I'm so grateful because I was actually listening, I'm sure a lot of other people weren't listening to what those guys were saying and different things like that. So, I take great pride. I try to take something, from each and every one of them, even Bruce Arians, he never tried to change anybody, like he just told you what it was and he made you change it. You know what I mean? So I take things from all those guys. I think the difference with me is, like I really love to practice, and I really love that part of it. Like I try to treat practices like games, like for real. I'm like all out, and I probably say I hope that separates me. But I've been around some good dudes that have really set the standard pretty high when you talk about being accountable, being responsible, giving back, while also, being a really good ball player.
I want to talk to you about a nickname. Okay. So last year you've obviously been the Honey Badger for a long time, but you called yourself the Landlord. You went with Rents Due all year long. How did that come about, man? Because I loved it. I think the fans in Kansas City embraced the hell out of it. They were all tweeting Rents Due, the Landlord's here. How did that come about? Because, man, it was fun to watch on social media.
To be honest, I really don't know how it came about. I knew the Rents Due, that little slogan came from the fans. But the Landlord, I think that was probably something I was just like planning. I hashtag a lot of things. I tweet a lot of things. And so sometimes they catch on and, other times they don't. But I just felt like that was, obviously I thought that's what they saw me as, somebody that can really come in. Because a big part of like the free agency, even when people were like in my mentions, they were always talking about whether or not I can get people lined up. Like that was I don't know what happened before I got here, but like the biggest question was, can I get these cornerbacks and safeties to line up in the right spot? So I was like, okay. So I felt like the Landlord kind of, he's like, the guy that's keeping attendance in check. So the fans loved it. So yeah.
Tyrann, we're doing a tight end show here today. That's the theme of our show. And you got a pretty good one down there in Kansas City. I think he's all of our unanimous choice to be the number one tight end. So kind of a two-pronged question here. One, what makes Travis Kelce the best tight end in football? And two, aside from covering Kelce in practice, who is the other toughest tight end in football for you to cover?
I'd probably say, what makes Kelce so good is he can really line up anywhere. And I probably say what makes him even better is he's pretty deceiving, like because when you look at him, you don't think he can really move or wiggle the way he can, and he can go. And once he gets going, he can really run. So, and I think he just has such a natural feel for sitting down in certain coverages, like understanding certain leverages, and obviously, I think playing with a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who's like on the same beat as him, I think it makes guys like him almost unguardable in a sense, because they're just so good with sitting down in between certain coverages, and they're so good at man-to-man working off your leverage. So You know, a lot of what he does is option routes, and he has the option to go this way or that way. And so, I mean, anytime a guy has a two-way go, it gets pretty tough. And I probably say that the toughest tight end, probably the cover. I'll probably say, you know, Zach Ertz. He's probably another one that I probably say that I've, you know, had my fair battles with. You know, even going back to our rookie year, you know, we going up there to Philly, you know, he's another one who's really deceiving, can run. And I think the biggest thing too is they can really catch. So all those tough catches, all those contested balls over the middles, the quick slants, the basic routes, like they're going to come down with those balls. So, and I think anytime you put guys like that in space, you're really able to show, you know, their athletic ability. So I'll probably say those two guys.
So you mentioned the guy, right? Mahomes, Pat, Superman. He got a bunch of damn names at this point. We see the greatness on the field, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about what you see, not necessarily behind the scenes, but the stuff we don't see. You love to practice.
Yeah.
The clips that we get to see, you could tell he loves to practice.
Yeah.
That intense competitiveness. But what, other than the freaky arm strength and the angles, all the stuff that we get to see, right? The people that watch this all the time. What makes him different to you, though, being his teammate?
I'd probably say, you know, like most guys that I played with that were that talented, they simply just relied on that. And they weren't truly ever able to make the guys around them better. I think he can do that. Like I think he realistically sets a standard for all the guys around him to achieve. And he's constantly like pushing them to that. You know what I mean? You know, I saw what he was able to do, you know, with the receiver group and the confidence he was kind of able to continue to build in them even as the season went along. So he's not a guy that, you know, is selfish in the sense that he's going to come out here and get his numbers, you know, as long as he looks good. I think he's really, you know, conscious of how the people around him look. And I always appreciate that from a leader because I think, you know, obviously we all could kind of get in that space to where we become selfish beings and we be like, okay, I'm good at what I do. But it's like, you know, are you making anybody around you better? So I always appreciate the leader that holds himself at a high standard, but he's able to kind of, you know, get other people on the same boat, you know, that he's on.
You've mentioned Bruce Arians quite a few times throughout this podcast, and we know the history and the love that exists there, and he acquired Tom Brady in the offseason. Okay, so you as a Kansas City Chief, you've been able to battle with New England here for a little while and know what that was. What are you expecting from Bruce, knowing how great he is? And now that he has added Tom Brady, because you guys match up in the regular season, and if things go really well, y'all could meet up in Tampa in the Super Bowl, and that would be, from a fan perspective, my dream come true.
Yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be dope, man. Playing against Bruce Arians and the rest of my coaches, man. I'm still cool. Most of those guys over there. Even a couple of my LSU boys on the team. So that'd actually be really cool. That'd be sick. Actually.
I think BA would say the same thing. I
think, you know, being around Bruce Arians, you know, I think him and Tom is like perfect for each other. You know, obviously both of them are, you know, well decorated as far as, you know, what they were able to do, what they were able to accomplish. I think you put two guys like that together. Like I played against Brady. Like he's the ultimate competitor. Like, and I know Bruce Arians. Like the first play, it's a bomb. You know what I mean? So, like, I think you putting that together, like, because I know Bruce Arians. Like, I know what he was able to do for a 20-year-old kid who the world gave up on. So I'm just looking at the situation with Brady, who's much more mature, but, you know, the perspective is the same. Like, the world is probably giving up on him, you know what I mean? So he's in a position where, you know, he's going to walk in the building every day with somebody that's going to give him confidence. And, you know, Brady's not in the AFC, so I don't really care. But they're gonna have problems. You know, even defensively. I thought Tampa Bay was underrated defensively. I thought they had some games where they gave up a lot of points. But I thought defensively, like, they're a scratchy punch. Like, they're going to pull up and they won't fight, you know? So I think they got a good situation over there, but I think anytime you got a coach that puts confidence in his players and that coach has legit players, they're gonna be trouble. So I don't care what team it is, they're gonna be a problem. So and I think they got a good situation right now.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you about was for our listeners in the New Orleans area, the bike and vote movement that you've tweeted about, and any information you can share with us and the listeners that are in that area about what it's about, your involvement in it, and anything that you can share for those. I believe there's a mobilization going on this Saturday.
Yeah, well, actually, that was for a friend of mine that wanted me to tweet that. But I'm actually my foundation. We actually are in a phase of trying to find the best ways to make voting accommodating for people in New Orleans. So that's like the next step for us. I was just helping out a friend with that, but obviously, I think that's the next big step for us. I don't think a lot of things are fair, and I think we can sit down all day and argue back and forth about what's right, what's wrong. I think the right thing to do is to really educate people, all people, on, what it is that they can do, what it is that, how it is that they can impact certain situations, So I think that's the next step for me. I know Pat Mahomes is doing the same thing. And we're just trying to get as many people registered to vote as possible. I think that's the power. Is being able to really, elect who we want to elect, for our particular, city. So I think that's extremely important. It's not just about, presidential races,
Yeah.
I think it becomes local. I think we have to, begin local as far as voting and different things like that. And as far as our state, we got to be able to handle, what's in front of us, So and I think that's the message I want to send to these kids. I want to make that cool, so that, they pulling up on a Friday or Saturday and they're actually going to punch and vote. And I think that's pretty cool.
That is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, Ty, I want to talk to you more about that before I get into the lighthearted questions to end the podcast, because I think what's really awesome is to speak with an athlete in 2020 and be talking about voting rights, right? I think that's really become something that is almost an expectation from high profile athletes. Is you're going to use your platform and you're going to use it in a positive way. And one thing that I've noticed even in the last couple of days is the players kind of mobilizing together and using the platform as really a big platform, right? Because you with Mahomes, with Watson, with everybody together, the power is really great. So what has that evolution been like? And are you enjoying that? Because yes, it's good to be able to use your platform, but it's also a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's been cool to see different guys, from different parts of the league, different backgrounds in the league, and not just black dudes. It's some white boys, there's some different colored guys that get on these calls, that have these tough conversations with us. But I think the most important thing is us being together, us, fundamentally, having the same goal. And we might not always have the same vision, but I hope all of our, vision is somewhere in the same area. And so it's been cool to see guys, really tap in with each other, figure out what it is other guys are doing in the community, trying to find a way to match it, even on tough topics and things that, most players particularly stay away from. I think the guys in the NFL are starting to really understand their leadership. And I don't think it's like a cocky or arrogance. I think it's just, Pat Mahomes understands who he is and what kind of impact he truly has on the white and the black community. So I think just guys really stepping up, understanding, who they are, where they come from, and what it is they have to represent, So that's what I've been telling the guys, as many things come across the table and we can all agree on it or disagree on it. I think it sends a great message, beyond us that we are united, that we are brothers, that it's not just, politically, the right thing to say.
So a follow-up on that, we can cut this if we need to, because this is a little deeper than we probably are going to go. But I played in the league. I've been there. I've been in the locker room. I know what you're talking about. It's amazing because that locker room sees nothing other than a brother, right?
Yeah.
But when you're talking about social change, taking a big stand, doing something that may be controversial to an ownership or whatever, talk about how hard it would be as a younger player that hasn't reached that second contract yet compared to a guy that has gotten paid, has become a leader in the locker room, not necessarily you, but just guys you've seen, it's hard to do as a young player because that's your livelihood, right? I don't think a lot of people realize taking a stance before you're necessarily set or generational, your daughter's taking care of it, that's not an easy thing to do, right? So I'm so proud of so many young guys for taking that stance that don't come from that. Right. They're heading towards generational wealth and different things. It's not easy to do.
Nah, and I was actually, proud, especially of, Pat Mahomes, him speaking up, and because, now that he signed for $500 million, I'm pretty sure before he spoke up, he thought about that. I would have.
Yeah.
So, and it's a lot of guys that are in that position, that they don't feel comfortable enough to speak up or to say what they feel like is right. So they kind of play the backfield or they don't say anything at all. And I think ultimately that's especially with the unit committee that the guys that get on the calls with us, that's what we're trying to tell these young boys is to understand that we're moving in a space now where veterans are understanding that we have to have certain guys back, especially when they're speaking up about certain issues. But I feel like a lot of dudes don't speak up simply because they don't have that security. They don't have that second contract. They don't have $5 million in the bank. They just can't do it. And I mean, who am I to blame them?
It's hard.
We don't come from much. So it's like, to have the opportunity to make X amount of dollars, like, I don't want to be the guy telling people that, something that's bigger than that. Like, if that's what you need for your family, then that's what you need, So I just try to, understand and keep a clean perspective on it all.
Ty, I want to end with a couple of more lighthearted questions because I told these guys before you jumped on, I said, the first interview I ever did, one, was with you in the NFL in the locker room, and I was as nervous as you were, and you made me calm down because I could tell how nervous you were. But then the second one I did was a podcast, and I think I told you it was going to be like 15, 20 minutes. We talked for like an hour and a half, and we went to spiritual topics and yoga and all this. We were all over the place. So I told these guys, I was like, I'm going to be generous to Ty, and I'm not going to keep him for 2 hours today. So I'm gonna wrap things up with a couple lighthearted things. And I saw something on Twitter the other day. You were doing a Q&A, right? And you do these all the time. It's great. The fans get to ask you questions. But you actually had a teammate ask you a question. So Tyreek Hill asked you who would win in locker room basketball. And I wanted you, because I talked about locker room basketball and Jake started laughing because he started talking about what locker room basketball is. So I want you to set the scene for the fans of what this locker room basketball is. And most importantly, who is winning between you and Tyreek in this locker room basketball game?
Well, yeah, we got like a little hoop in our locker room. We would kind of just, waste time. We usually play 2-on-2. So it's a lot of picks and because you can't do much. And
we talking Nerf hoop? We talking like a little mini ball hoop?
A real basketball.
I got you. All right, so Pittsburgh, they had like a trash can and a tape ball. And it was like the sickest games of horse ever. Larry Foote was talking nonstop.
Nah, but it's usually 2-on-2. So it's usually just a bunch of picks and screens and guys just shooting jumpers. But every now and then, we'll line up, do like one-on-one. Tyreek Hill is pretty competitive. And, hey, I love it, but I'm not the one he should underestimate. And so I tell him all the time, man, if I was 6'4", 6'5", I could legit be a hooper. Like, I'll be out there checking Russell Westbrook, So, but now I think the only dude that really give me trouble is Chris Jones because he's so big. But he could wiggle too. So, but other than that, Tyreek Hill, he's too small.
Okay.
You got to be 6'5" to be able to check.
I love it. I love the smack talk. I knew I would get it. I knew the competitiveness would come out. All right. The last two questions and the competitiveness will come out on this one. So I asked fans to ask, I told them you were coming on the pod. I said, what are the questions you had? A lot of questions about Mahomes. You already talked about that. The next two things that we got asked about, which does not surprise me at all, is food, okay, and LSU. So the first one I'm going to ask you is Kansas City is known for top-tier barbecue, and I have argued on its behalf against people from Texas, and I'm always arguing with somebody about it. So for you, what's your favorite barbecue in KC? Because there's a lot of good spots to hit up.
I mean, it is, and I feel so bad answering this. But, so I've tried a bunch of it.
Okay.
I feel like, obviously, I like Gates, because Gates is like the classical. They've been here for a very long time, and it's like black on. So I always go, support them. But they give you so much food, and I can never finish it all.
Okay.
I legit never finish my food. And
Okay.
so Q39, I can finish that plate,
Okay.
and so I'll probably say those two are like, that's like, depending on what side of town I'm on, like that's where I'm gonna go. So, but yeah, probably those two, Gates and Q39.
I agree with Q39. All right, the last one here. Why is LSU? So the questions that came in, I'll set the scene here. For all of you that don't exist on Twitter all the time, this argument happens nonstop. Who is the real DBU? Okay, Ohio State.
Not even an argument, though.
Trust me, I understand, but you've got Ohio State that's making noise. You got Florida that's making noise. You got Bama that's making noise. And this question came from one of your former teammates. Okay, so he wants to know, why is LSU the real DBU?
I think it's not the amount of guys you put in the league. I think it's truly the quality of guys you're able to put in the league. Okay, now I probably pick any team, and they can pick their best 3 players defensively, and I'll probably say, okay, pick LSU's best 3, and you probably say Matt P, Adams, or me, or Tre'Davious White, right? But for me, I feel like I can build a legit defense around the LSU guys. Like
I agree.
Other guys need to be in a perfect situation, whereas the LSU guys could, just drop them off. They'll land on their feet somewhere. But I think that's it. I think it's the quality of guys you put in the league, the type of guys you put in the league, the guys that know that they're the leaders of their unit. And I think anytime you get a guy from LSU, he pulls up as if he's going to be the captain of this group one day, whereas most guys just trying to fit in. So I think LSU breeds you in that way. They kind of, they set the standard for you, and it's really up to you to kind of continue to live up to it. I feel like we got really a handful of guys that could play in any defense, any system, have any coach, any coverage, and they'll be all right.
So you're saying everybody leaves LSU with a 7 on their chest?
Yeah, for the most part.
If anybody knows what that means, that's powerful.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a powerful statement. I knew we'd get a good answer because LSU is close to the heart for you, and I'm quite sure that this will start a Twitter war with somebody from Ohio State, and I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. I'll be here talking smack on behalf of Tyrann and battling for LSU. Ty, and today you got anything going on you want to talk about, or anything the foundation's doing? Or if you don't, then I'd love to hear what you're looking forward to most about hopefully football season continuing on time.
Yeah, so as far as the voter registration, the deal I'll be doing with my foundation, we'll have an update probably next week or so on exactly what we're doing, what we're trying to attack. So I'll probably send that out via Twitter or my foundation, TyranNMathieu.org. But now I'm just relaxing right now. I'm scheduled to report to camp Saturday, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping everything goes well. I feel like so much is going on in the world. I think football is an ideal sport to kind of bring it all back together, bring us all back together. So I'm hoping we have that opportunity to really play not only for ourselves and our families, but to kind of give the world some love and something to talk about. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting back around my teammates. Haven't really seen those guys in a while, other than, Instagram and stuff. So it'll be cool, man, to get back around the guys. We, like I said, we weren't really able to kind of celebrate the championship. So I'm more than sure they'll have a ring ceremony for us soon, I hope.
I'm quite sure that's going to happen. Everybody, please be sure to check out Tyrann's foundation, TyranNMathieu.org. I will make sure that I retweet/tweet out when that voter registration comes out, because that is awesome. Definitely want people doing that, registering to vote and becoming informed. It's so important for, like Tyrann said earlier, local elections. It's not just about the presidential election. It's about everything that is leading up to that point. Impacts your community. Want to make sure you guys do that. Ty, good luck. I hope we get that Tampa Super Bowl, man. I'm rooting for it. And you know Jake's rooting for it.
Yeah,
I'm
I know,
in.
man. I see you. I see you week 12, Jake. I think we played. I think it's week 12, something like that.
It's in November. I'll see you there.
All right, bro.
Stay safe.
Appreciate y'all.